Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blicey.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody. I'm your host, Aaron Blicey, and this is episode number 4. Today on the episode, I've got Kasey Thren from Complete Deer Management on. He's a wealth of knowledge talking about deer management and what you should be doing on your property right now to prepare for the fall. So sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Fall Podcast. All right, here we are back again today for the episode 4 of the Fall Podcast, and today I've got a special guest on, Kasey Thren of Complete Deer Management. Kasey, how you doing?
Doing good, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you coming on, and you and I have been talking about this for a while, and just so everybody knows who doesn't know, Kasey is actually my uncle, so I've known you basically my whole life.
That's right.
So basically what I want to talk about is I want you to explain what you do at Complete Deer Management, how long you've been doing it, and just kind of give a brief bio on, everything you offer. And then I kind of want to get into and talk about just what we need to be doing with our properties and management right now in the present. So if you could just give a little brief bio about yourself.
Yeah, so I started Complete Deer Management. This is my 6th full-time season. This is what I do for a living. Kind of get through the winters best I can, but this is my 6th full season. Started out doing food plots. My background is ornamental horticulture. I have a horticulture degree from Ferris. Ran a landscape lawn care, snow plowing business for like 18 years, and then started doing this on the side and kind of grown it. The landscape business ran its course, and I fell in love with this. And hunting has always been a staple in my life. And so what Complete Deer Management is basically complete property management is probably how I should have said it, but I wanted to put deer in the title. I've kind of all about habitat, so from consulting, meaning client calls up and says, hey, I need some help. I have these goals and objectives. We talk about a lot of their goals and objectives, ask them tons of questions, and then we go walk the property and draw them up a plan, or I write down ideas of what they can do to improve their property. A lot of times I like to do the stuff that we talk about, like put in food plots, put in all sorts of food plots and maintain them, put in switchgrass, put in trees and shrubs, do a lot of hinge cutting. I guess not a lot of hinge cutting. This year I've done a lot of hinge cutting. This year's exploded for me. It's been a great year so far. Hopefully, knock on wood, it continues. But I prune apple trees. I build blinds, put up tower blinds, run trail cameras. You name it, anything that has to be done on a hunting property, I try to provide that service. Everything except like a timber stand improvement or anything that has to do with a timber sale. I work with a forester. Get the forester and the client together, kind of liaison between those guys with my plan, with the customer's objectives, and then the forester's recommendations. So other than that, I build little ponds, pretty much a lot of that stuff. My education, besides the horticulture, I went through the QDMA and got certified with the deer stewardship. There's a ton of information you can learn from the QDMA on deer biology, what deer eat, how they move, how they sleep, how they breed. And other than that, on my own out there, you can't really beat experience. So doing this 6 years full time, I've gained a lot of experience, made a lot of mistakes, but I've also gained a ton of experience, and I'm getting there as far as getting my name out and out there. So I live in Clare, And so I travel about 60 miles, but I've traveled pretty much the entire state this year. I've been to Ann Arbor, Muskegon, and stuff like that. So we're getting out there.
Yeah, so you are living in Clare, Michigan, and traveling all over the state of Michigan. So to break it down for everybody, basically a client or a property owner could call you and say, I want you to consult my property. So you could come in and just give them a plan of where you think food plots, stands, cameras, all that can go. But you can also come in and do the whole shebang. Like, you can put in food plots, you can hang cameras, you can hang stands, you can recommend timber stand improvements, you can do hinge cutting. I mean, A to Z, you can do it all, but you can do both, right? Like, you can just give a consult of the whole property, or you can do everything by doing the work as well, correct?
Correct. Yes. I really like working and staying with the client throughout the process. I mean, I'd probably be a fool to say I can walk on someone's property one day and become an expert on it, because I can't. I don't know how it can be done anyway. So I like following up with the client, because this stuff takes years to put together, and because I like to educate the client as well. So when we are sitting there talking, and we kind of coming up with goals and objectives, we kind of see if they're reachable or not, and how fast we want to reach them and stuff like that. But I like to kind of go through, and teach them about deer, everything I've learned from the QDMA and other people. I try to pass that on to the client, like how much they eat, what they eat, why they eat it, all that sort of thing. As much as they can learn, it makes everything a lot smoother and understandable moving forward. So yeah, I really like staying with the client throughout the whole process. And I don't have to, obviously. I can just go in and consult. But I at least would like to stay with them, if they have any questions or emails or stuff like that. Because I got guys that I just consulted with like 3 years ago. He still texts me every once in a while. Hey, when should I do this? When should I plant this? Hey, what do you think about this? So I like staying in contact with those, and I like seeing pictures of what they shoot.
That's also got to be gratifying to see it come full circle once they get to harvest the ultimate goal, what they've been seeing.
It is, because it sure is, because it makes my efforts kind of, hey, it did pay off. I do know what I'm doing, and I'll even ask them, was it because of me? And they're like, because there is some luck involved. But they're having the food plot
Right.
you put in, or they come past the blind you put up. I don't know. But they, nevertheless, it's a process, and if I can say have any part in it, even heck, I don't know, cutting shooting lanes or something. If I had any part of that success, I feel pretty proud. I mean, I can't shoot 18 deer a year. I can't even shoot 2. I mean, bucks. Well, I guess legally we can shoot 2, but yeah, that's really exciting when other people send me a picture, text me a picture, and go, wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome. So when let's say a client calls you, a new client, and they give you the rundown, I've got X amount of acres, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. It could be a new piece of property they got, or it could be existing and they just want to make it better. What is your next steps once they give you the bullet points of what they want to do? Like, let's say they want to make a big sanctuary with some food plots, around the property, and, some better access. What is your plan from there after that phone call to get them the best quality of resource that you have, so they get the maximum out of it?
Right. So I spend a lot of time asking them questions. I've got a sheet that I made, of course, the name and your address and all your contact information, so on and so forth. We talk about the QDMA. We talk about deer biology a lot. We try to get them a QDMA membership, because that helps me and will help them in the long run by passing on what I've learned to them and them understanding it. How deer move, how deer work, what deer eat, how they eat, how much they eat, when they eat it, so on and so forth. So if that's a couple of their goals, a sanctuary and access, and I'm telling you, not to kind of go off course a little bit, but a lot of time, some properties are set up pretty good, but their biggest challenge, and I have the same challenge, and I think you and I talked about it on your property, how do we get into the property without spooking deer? And that is a challenge for almost everybody I go on, especially here in Michigan when we have, kind of, but like I have 20 acres, and it's hard and we live on it, so it's hard for me to get back where I need to hunt, where the bucks are kind of coming through without spooking, blowing up the woods with my scent and getting caught, basically. So I spend a lot of time on the phone or in person asking them almost every question I can about the property, about what they want. And then we start talking about the neighbors. We try to learn about the neighbors. We look at overhead maps, either on Google Earth, usually. We kind of get a layout of the plan. And like you said, if you want a sanctuary and access, I got an idea kind of in my head, and then I got to meet. We got to put boots on the property with the landowner, and they have to show me exactly what they want. So when I'm out there looking, I'm looking at deer trails. I'm looking at deer food. I'm looking at a browse line. I'm looking at what types of trees are there. Maybe a forester needs to come in, possibly, maybe not. I look at trees that are of no wildlife value whatsoever. I look at shrubs. It depends on what type of year it is, but a lot of times I'm on these properties in the winter, you can see quite a bit, and you can kind of tell by a soil profile or what the landowner says, kind of what's growing there. If it's ferns, if it's woody brush, or you can tell if there's pucker brush there, where there's if there's deer food or not, basically, and you can kind of tell browse line. But you can also see how the deer are using the property already. And I kind of like to improve on what they're already doing, where they're already bedding, and then try to improve on that and not disrupt their life so much. Let's improve. Let's find a different way in their an access. And it's very challenging. And what I like doing with my clients is I'm hardly ever go there once and I'm done with the property. I don't know. Well, I'd be lying to you if I can walk onto your property and say, "Here, do this," and big bucks will come. I don't know how you could do that. So I like staying in contact with the client, working up a plan, making sure it's a good plan for the landowner if he likes it, and then seeing how we move it forward. If I can help them move it forward, or maybe they help them, but maybe they have access to a forester or a timber buyer, or maybe they want to go out and do the chainsaw work or put up fences or whatever it is.
So you've got a checklist, and once you get boots on the ground and really can check everything out, then you can really start making a fine-tuned plan with the landowner and try to make everything happen from there, correct?
Right. So it's so hard, it's so hard, you say how to put a sanctuary in and access, but if I can't see what the property is, and I wish maybe some of the, viewers, I wish maybe one of these times we can pull up a map or something and go, we have an idea, but like if they say, I want to put a sanctuary here, a lot of the times, a lot of the guys I'm working with already do some of that and say, hey, we stay out of this area. And I go in there and we go, well, there's not even any deer sign in here anyway. So why not go in here? You know what I mean? What
Right.
can we do so if we go in there, they never go in there. And of course we got to try to see every inch of the property if we can. Depends a lot on things, but we go in there and all of a sudden there a couple deer trails or a couple deer tracks and no beds and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, here's a little safe zone. Now, not to say that they couldn't go in there during hunting season when pressure is on a little bit and hang out, but what's in there for them? Is there food? Is there security cover in there? So most of the time we can go in there and do something to improve it if the trees are right and stuff like that. But
So what if in that instance they have like a certain area that they call a quote unquote sanctuary, but you go in there and there's not a lot of deer sign or anything, but that's where they want it to be. So what is your next step to create that for the deer so they do want to come in there and live and call that home, and then the client can say, that's my sanctuary. We're not going in there. We hunt the edges or fringes of it. What is your steps to go in there to make those deer want to go in there?
tough question because, okay, let's say
it is a loaded
that,
question.
Yeah. Well, let's say that because a lot of properties pop up when you're that I've walked that when you say that, and one comes into mind. And this winter we walked it in I think February, and it was like this. It was the north end of their property. It was a 75 acre. It was probably a 10 or 12 acre area they don't go in, and it was all wet. It was all frozen water, and I'm like, gee, the deer were coming through there, yes, but there weren't no beds. They weren't using it during the winter, and I'm like, does this dry up in the summer? And they're like, oh, a little bit. And I'm like, well, now if we wanted to make deer go in there, we'd have to. Well, first we needed a logger in there because there was huge overgrown trees. Trees were 18, 24 inches diameter, big maple, a lot of black cherry, some popple. Popple were in that area too big, but they needed some a timber stand improvement. They needed some logs out of there. And once they do that, they might be able to get some dry up area. And then if they want to put some box in there, let's say, well, may have to haul some sand in there and build some little bedding in there and use some of those logs to brush up areas because you could kind of see right through it as well. So we would try to brush up the areas, maybe do some hinge cutting, but a lot of the trees were so big you couldn't hinge cut them. But hopefully after a timber stand improvement, they have regeneration, and in 3 to 5 years plus, they'd start getting some little maple shoots in there and whatnot, and then they could start thickening up and having it more attractive for the deer. So we got to get food in there, and that's probably the biggest key to probably holding them is get a little food in there, get some food on the ground where they can reach it, either by hinge cutting or planting, and they should use it.
Right. And that's something I'm learning a lot this year, and you've helped me out with this too on the main farm there, is that I got that 1 acre that we hinge cut a lot to get the canopy open, get some new successional growth in there because I've got water in there. There's a creek that runs through there, whatever you want to call it. And there's water in there all year because the ag fields around it runs in there. So there's always water in there, but there was no woody browse. There was nothing for the deer to come in there and eat. And now that we got the canopy open, I was in there this weekend, and the new successional growth is unbelievable. And we created some beds, did some hinge cutting, and the does are actually using those beds. Now, if we circle back a little bit to the access, and we were talking about this earlier, that farm is so hard for me to access. I mean, there's no good way to do it unless there's corn on. And this year, there's not going to be corn on again. This year, it's going to be beans for the second year in a row. But it's tough. I mean, it's an 80-acre farm with 1 acre of timber in the northeast corner of it. And, the west fence row, or the east fence row, is wooded with, 20 acres of woods and 20 acres of warm season grasses on the neighbors, which helps because the deer like to stay over there because they don't really hunt it that much. that helps a little bit, but I'm trying to attract the deer to the 1 acre, but I'm also trying to get in there and hunt it. So it's a fine line. I'm going to kind of go against the grain how everybody says don't hunt field edges in the morning, but this year I might be trying to get in there in the morning just because I'm going to try to get in there and use the cover of darkness to let me get in the stand. Now, I feel like I can do that because the deer density over there is not that big, and once the beans come off and it's a cut bean field, there's not a lot out in that field for them to eat. So I really am not worried about them being in my field. Now they will be in the wheat fields and the winter wheat fields and everything on the adjacent property, which is a ways away from me, but I'm just hoping it's a little rut hole.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that because, like, let's say you go in there in the afternoon, or you go out for an afternoon hunt, a PM hunt, I like to call it, and your deer are bedding right where you want to sit. That's impossible. So you go in there in the morning, and you get there while they're on their way back to bed, hopefully, and you're already there. And my hope for you is that they come in there and lay right by you, and because they got to eat during the day. And what are they going to do? They're going to go out in that open field during the day? No, they're going to stay right in that area and find something to nibble on at least once during the day. And that's why you put some food at their face and in front of their face, and you opened up got that new successional growth. Because a lot of times they'll just stand up, they'll stretch their legs, they'll walk in a 30-foot diameter, nibble, go right back and lay down, chew their cud. I've seen them do it in my backyard. And if they have fawns with them, fawns' bellies fill up first. And so, but when a doe is nursing, man, she's eating 24/7 when she's nursing. Now, hunting season, she's not nursing so much at all, basically. But it's going to take her probably twice as long to get her belly full as her fawns. Now think about a big buck or a larger buck. Bucks we want to chase at least 2.5 years or older. He eats a lot, and he needs a lot to eat. So he eats a lot, and he doesn't go far. And if he's safe and comfortable, and you can sneak in there in the morning, cross your fingers on a good wind, get a shot.
And that's what I'm really hoping for, because, I mean, we can't really hold deer there, but we've hunted it for 2 years now, and the hunter per square mile in there is not as much as it usually averages out in Michigan. There's not a lot of hunters in that square mile, especially bow hunters. So I have noticed on my trail cams, I'm getting 2-year-olds to 3-year-olds and 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds. And this next year, I've got a 4-year-old that I felt like was a 4-year-old last year that is going to be a 5-year-old this year. So, that's good. And they're just passing through right now, though, because that 1 acre, I mean, before you could see through it. Now you can't. It is thick, but we opened the canopy to where, like I said, I was in there this weekend, and it is like 6 inches tall grass, and we got all that woody browse that were 50 foot up in the air, doing no good to the deer, down to the forest floor now, where they're still connected and living and flourishing, but the deer are eating, which is great. So I'm really excited about that. And my plan is to take a backpack blower in there here in about a month and blow the leaves off in that area. I created an edge in there, and I want to plant clover and chicory all over in there, just broadcast it. And it's always kind of wet in there. Not wet, but it's moist. It's not like a standing water all the time. It gets dry, but there's usually some good wetness, I guess. So I think with a good seed to soil contact, I think that stuff will really come up and give even more food for the deer. Now, I'm not trying to hold the bucks. I'm trying to hold the does. So they come to me, and in the rut, they'll be there and cruising, hopefully. And actually this year I'm going to try to do some midday hunts, like maybe take the morning off, get in there at 10 o'clock, hunt until 3 or hunt the rest of the day, because the last 2 years our cameras have shown that there has been some good 3.5-year-old bucks cruising the edges in there, and we just, you just never really choose or think to hunt that time. So I really want to try that. And the other thing is, my big thing is I've got to discipline myself, but I'm not going to run cameras back there this year. I am going to run a camera on the property, but it's going to be on the complete south end of the property, away from everything, where I can get to it just to get inventory for the summer. But I want to be done hanging stands and everything by July, and I'm not going to go back in there until the first time I hunt it.
Yep. And going back to when you said, how you thickened it up, so deer or a buck or any deer can't just kind of walk by. They can't see through it. They kind of got to go through it. And as they go through that, and I've seen it, I've seen the cutting you guys did, it's going to take them a lot longer to get through that little 1 acre property or piece now, because of the little the trails that you made and edges that you made and the bedding. And I mean, I cut a few trees down there. We kind of blocked an area, so they kind of got to go around it and whatnot. And when, I think I like your idea to between October 28th and November 14th, let's say, all bets are off. The big guy could be through there at any day, at any time. So hopefully you can pattern them. There's a couple around there, so you got a good shot.
Yeah. And my only thing is, and just because we talk quite a bit, but I mean, I love to hunt too. Now the good thing is I've got other properties that I can hunt, but I want to go in there and hunt it, so I got to be disciplined this year and not do it unless we get an October cold front, and then get into a cold front and I can get a good win and slip in there and try to make something happen. But it's tough, because I'm going to want to hunt it the first chance I get, but you got to wait.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same way. I got 20 acres I like to hunt, and I really don't have any other place to hunt. So I can easily blow up my property. And it's tough. And a lot of my clients are the same way, They want, I yet have had a client come up and say, hey, man, I want to shoot 130-inch class bucks every year. I want one a year. Because I'm probably going to say, depending on, the property and whatnot, how size and how many people hunt it, I'm going to say, that's probably not a reachable goal. However, we'd have to look at it. So I don't really promise anything, but I say, look, the less hunting I do, the better I do, which sucks, because we like to hunt.
Yeah.
But it's true, and so I kind of tell them, let's put some, a lot of the times it's edge access into properties, the property line access. And if you're scaring deer on the property lines, who cares? Hopefully they're coming into yours, but there's nothing you can do. You got to get in there. And most of the time, an older buck, probably 2 or 3 plus, isn't going to put up with that a whole lot, but those do, and they'll be back. But I do believe that, again, like you said, pick the right time of day. You can, try to get in there maybe and hunt, see what's going on, and early. But you get that kind of chase phase of the rut. You get a cold morning or cold day, high pressure, and you never know.
Right. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for me this year for sure.
Yeah. And let's kind of go back to, you're going to go in there and with the leaf pack or leaf blower, blow some of that stuff around. You said you got a lot of grass in there?
Yeah, it's not a ton of grass. I mean, it is because it takes up a lot of the 1 acre, but it's not like your lawn. It's not like a thick grass.
Yeah, cool seed, yeah. So you might have to, and it's probably going to be a work in progress because this is kind of the first year doing it, but spraying some clethodim in there to get rid of that grass, because that's going to make your clover do better, because grass, low preference, low nutrition, and all site clover, if you can find a mix that has all site clover in it, it likes a little wetter ground like that type of clover. So if you can, shop around, find something in there, that might help out as well. But that's a good plan.
Now tell me about the clethodim. I want to break down this because I know this is one of your techniques as well. What I'm gonna do, what would be your process if you were doing the same thing that I'm gonna do on like a client's property or your property?
Yeah. So the clethodim is a herbicide. It's a selective herbicide, so it's a grass-only herbicide. And if you spray right now, it's hard to kill. Grass would be hard to kill right now. The reason is it's springtime. It's hot. We've got a lot of rain here and there. It's really strong. It's really strong. A lot of the energy of the plant is in the roots and in photosynthesis, the green stuff, growing. So it's really hard to kill. It's really strong right now. So I try to spray as less as possible. Any type of stuff, glyphosate, which is Roundup, basically. Less as possible. Usually some of the clients don't prefer to spray and don't like it, so we don't do it. We kind of go different routes. The way you'd have to do is probably mow it, weed whip it, or rototill it. On an area like that, that'd be tough because it's woody and whatnot. But blowing the leaves will sure help. Burning it, if you can burn it, would help. But the key to probably the grass and any of those stuff, even in food plots, is spraying that stuff in the fall. We don't like being in there in the fall, close to hunting season, but that's the best time to kind of kill that stuff with like clethodim, let's say, because that's when the energy and the sugars are kind of going down into the roots and getting ready to overwinter. And it will soak up that herbicide the best, and that's the best luck I have. So each spot is different. What I would do if it was on mine, I have a lot of ferns on my property, so I take the Roundup out there and try to kill them with that, or weed whip, and then I'll throw the clover in it, and a lot of times it'll grow even if you just throw it out there, with not doing any other soil prep, which we need seed to soil contact, but with clover, it's not that expensive, and just kind of throw it out there and see what happens.
Would you rake it back in with like a hand rake in my situation? Like once you spread it, rake it back in just to try to work it in a little bit better?
Yeah, if you got some soil exposed, even a rake, leaf rake, that even help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Work up the ground a little bit. Any of that will help. It's not going to hurt you. I'm going to tell you that. It would be worth the effort to do.
Yeah, that's my plan, but I'm kind of waiting to the end of, I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to be out of there by July. I'm kind of waiting till the end of June, and it might be one of those things if I got all the stands hung and everything done except that, where I go in there in July, maybe 1st of August, and do it so it's like a fall plot basically. I don't want it to get it burn up, and I don't want the deer to eat it right away.
And that's something you might want to, if that's the plan, maybe go in there next time soon and start prepping it. And then so all you have to do is, when it's July or late July, is go in there with your bag spreader or whatever, spread, rake real quick, and you're out of there. Yep. And all your, whatever happens.
Yep.
You could also throw in a little fertilizer in your bag spreader. If you have a bag spreader or whatever, you could throw in a little, anything, probably potash, 0060, or you could throw in some pelletized lime and right in the seed and everything, and just spread.
I think that'll be a good idea. Like I said, it's just process of elimination this year. I'm trying to, even during the summer, I'm just trying to go in there only in midday, no matter when I go in there midday. I just trying to narrow it down to what am I doing wrong, and I just want to keep less pressure off of it. So I want to stay in this weekend. I got 2 more to hang. Believe it or not, in 1 acre, I'm going to have like 3 or 4 sets. But you never know with the wind, and each of them have a purpose. So we'll see. So now, basically, I wanted to get you on the podcast and to let everybody know you're going to come onto the podcast quite a bit. You're going to be helping me do maybe some hosting a little bit, but you'll be a return guest. And one of the big things I want to get out there is today, the first one, I want to talk about what people should be doing on their farms at this moment in time. We're in May right now, end of May. What should they be doing right now to get ahead or get prepped?
Yeah. Before you go out, go to qdma.com and join QDMA. Join QDMA. I can't stress it enough. I mean, even other habitat organizations, think about joining something. Getting involved. And I'm a deer guy. I am involved in some other things, but that's going to help. The QDMA, I just kind of stress that so much because of how much education you can learn from them. So in your magazines and whatnot. But on the farms, right now, I haven't put a lot of seed down on a lot of farms. I planted corn and soybeans for a client last week. Now this week I'm going to start rototilling, and I got some switchgrass to plant and prep for. So I've been prepping for the switchgrass since last year. So if you plan on planting a switchgrass, access or screens, stuff like that, or even that Egyptian wheat stuff, that annual, rototill, or get it ready, and then probably plant it next week or the week after that for the switchgrass. I don't like planting a lot of clovers or perennials this time of year anyway. I will start prepping if I'm going to plant a clover or a perennial or something cool season. I'll start prepping now for the fall. So I guess if the landowner says, hey, I want to put something in right now, if you want to spend the money to do it, plant something like soybeans, buckwheat, something like that. It'll soil build and it'll feed the deer a little bit. And you got probably around here in Michigan, central Michigan area, whole month of June to do that. If you say, no, don't have the money to spend on seed this spring or whatever, and I just saying food plots are expensive, very expensive. So you go out and you spend $300, $400, $500 on seed and fertilizer, and you put in clover, let's say, and it doesn't rain, and all you have is weeds going into the fall or August, you're going to be a little mad. So hopefully by now all your soil tests are taken, but if you haven't taken your soil tests, get those in. I use Michigan State University. You get about probably a 7 to 10 day return time. And in the meantime, I start tilling and prepping, getting the dirt ready. Also right now you could be working on access and hanging stands, I guess, if you can stand the heat and the mosquitoes. I did some hinge cutting for 4 or 5 hours by myself on Saturday, and I overdid it. Got a little heat stroke. That was some allergies. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Should have started first thing in the morning, I guess, and worked till about 11 or 12 and quit. But anyway, I was on a client's property and got a lot done. But you can hinge cut right now. I do not recommend hinge cutting oaks, red oaks especially. Wait on those till about July 15th. There's an oak wilt, it's called oak wilt. There's a little beetle that carries a spore around. On an injured oak, they will drop that spore in it, and that spore will actually go into the ground underneath the roots. The roots are connected to the other oaks, and it'll kill all of your oaks. So be careful of that right now. What I was hinging yesterday was maple. I was felling popple. No oaks were around, so I didn't have to worry about it. And what else am I going to be working on? Of course, prepping stands and blinds and stuff is there's never a bad time to do that. But kind of lucky I get to, do this stuff for kind of a living anyway. I still have a hard time getting through the winter yet, but business is growing, and hopefully we can talk here in a little while, a month or so, and prep for fall plots.
Yeah, so you're talking get your soil ready. If you want to do spring plots, start getting those in.
Even fall plots, get it ready and start tilling now. That way you don't have to use Roundup or nothing. Till now, or disc now. I know it's tough, and family comes first. Family comes first for me and you. And it's tough to get to the hunt camp and hunt properties and stuff. That's when I find myself, people are hiring me because they are spending time with their families, and they're younger and buying property up north or whatever, or a hunt club. A lot of guys are going in together. But if you do have the time and the tractor, or you can even rent equipment. It's not too bad to rent equipment. It's pretty reasonably priced anyway. But till it now, yep. Whether you're planting now or fall, you'll be ahead. They'll be more successful fall plots getting them ready now.
So take me through that process, from a soil sample to the process, what you should do to get your plot in. Basically, soil sample to the next step, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I get a soil test back, let's say the pH, and that's kind of I don't know the exact science terms, forgive me, my horticulture background. I know all this stuff, I just don't know how to explain it all the time, but the pH is for in the soil, the neutral is 7, and a lot of people might know that. So neutral is 7. That is when most of the nutrients and water and uptake that the soil will hold and uptake into the plants the most. So let's say your pH is 6. That's not bad for food plots especially, but it won't take that fertilizer and won't take that water and won't be as active as, let's say, the pH of a 6.8 or 7. Even after over 7 is good. So we do lime. Calicetic lime raises the pH. A lot of times people are getting established a plot in the middle of the woods where there's ferns and whatnot. pH a lot of times is in the 5s. So we put down lime. We put down either pelletized lime or ag lime, the bulk lime with the big spreaders and whatnot. Again, I'm kind of lucky. I got the equipment and everything to try to make my life efficient, and for the customer, try to make it affordable for them to be able to get this done. But put that on as soon as possible, because it takes about 6 months or so for the lime to really work into the soil and start raising that pH up. And it's to get a new one established, it's probably a 3-year, maybe 5-year process to get it how you want it. And then you just till or disc, work the ground up best you can. I don't really worry about rocks too much. I work around a lot of the stumps if I have to. Roots are a pain in the neck a lot of the times, but just work it, and then I'll come back. Let's see, 2 weeks to a month later, and do it again, work it again, or spread the lime again or whatever. And then towards the end of July, beginning of August, I start putting in the fall plots, where I'll put in a lot of the cereal rye, oats, winter wheat, brassicas like the rape, kale, turnips, radishes. Those are kind of your hunting plots. Even if you put something in now, soybeans or buckwheat, let's say, you'd probably till that under in by the time you plant, by the time you get to August or whatnot. And you have pretty much all of August. Watch the weather. Right now it's hot, but we do have rain here and there in the forecast. And the same thing with the fall. Try to. I know a lot of weekend warriors can't necessarily predict the rain or not, but try to get it in before the rain or even right after the rain. There's still some moisture in the ground, and you'll have a lot better success that way.
That just kind of hopefully sets everybody up to, if they're getting ready to put in the spring plots or even their fall plots, of what they need to do.
Yeah, if you don't do a soil test, I never remember this. If you don't do a soil test, a lot of people will put down a triple 19 or triple 12, and that could hurt you. Just because you don't need phosphorus, it's the middle number, triple 19, 19, 19, 19. A lot of times you don't need the phosphorus. A lot of times some plants don't need nitrogen. If you're putting in, let's say right now, soybeans, you need something like a 6-24-24, low nitrogen, more potash. Same thing with clover. More potash, the better. A little bit of nitrogen in it to kind of jumpstart it. And then the same thing with the fall plots. Now, in the fall plots, the cereal rye and the winter wheat and the oats and stuff like that, and the brassicas, they want a lot of nitrogen. So a triple 19 might not be enough nitrogen for them. You get like a 4600, and I'll put it all in the spreader at once, and that's why a soil test really helps. Once you do a soil test, it kind of tells you exactly how much to put down. Get your square footage. That's just kind of length times width on your food plots. Get them close, and we're not farming for a living, we're farming for deer. So that's why I kind of mentioned the pH. If it is in the 5s, I would work on putting some lime down, but if it's in the 6s, I wouldn't worry about it. You'll have a good plot.
I think that'll definitely get some people in the right direction.
Well, soil test, like I said, is probably, to Michigan State, it's like $12 to send it in. You send in a check with it. I think it's some for shipping. And they're non-biased. I see a lot of people using, nothing against the seed companies and other private companies, but the seed companies are selling their own seed, so they may be a little biased. And I've compared them, and I've used them myself. They're affordable and whatnot. I guess anything. I don't want to degrade or default anybody for doing it that way. Any soil test is a good soil test. So, but just got to keep in mind that they're a little biased towards their seed, and they want you to buy their seed. So, some other private ones, though, I've used private soil labs, and they're really good too. So,
would you recommend, like, the state? Like, for us, Michigan State University is a good one for us now. Or for any other state, would you recommend like a big college like that, or what do you recommend? Like, send it into the state itself, or what do you recommend?
I probably would recommend that. I mean, I know there's a lot of the students that are doing it, at the college or whatever, but they're overseen by a professor. So, and they do it for farmers. A lot of time they work with the local conservation districts, and I'm sure other states have local conservation districts that you can take them there as well. And they probably take it, send it to the local college or the college of the state that does it. And they may not. They may recommend private labs. I know I used to use CLC out of Ohio. I think what's the lab called? I think there's one here in Michigan. I know Dr. Grant Woods uses a private lab. I can't remember the name of it. He's a well-known deer biologist. So I think maybe the one that you kind of hook up with and like, or try a couple different ones and then see if you like them. And you don't have to pull them every year. I don't pull them. I take that back. I do on some. I'll pull them every year, especially if the client wants to buy them. But if not, I'll go off last year's, especially if we're kind of planting the same thing, and then I'll do it. I'll do another soil test next year, or skip a year or two, and go from there.
And a lot of those private labs, they'll like actually, if you want to put in soybeans, they will give you the right numbers for soybeans, right? Or if you want to do like a clover, or if you tell them what you're doing, will they
Yep.
give you the information for that seed that you're putting in?
Yep, same with Michigan State. So when you fill out the form, and it's not really catered to food plotters, and that's the only tough part about Michigan State, is because you look on the back of their legend, let's say, and it says soybeans or corn or switchgrass, or then they got vegetable gardens, and they got all these, you know. With Michigan State, though, they have an agriculture side and they have a lawn care side, or lawn side. So don't use the lawn side, use the agriculture, the farm side. I've seen guys use the lawn side, and they only really expertise is and recommend for lawns. But on the ag side, you can put down a number, usually it's a 3-digit number of Michigan State has a wildlife legume, it's called. So I usually put that. I think it's number 172 or 173. They have a wildlife legume, wildlife brassica, something like that. So they have it right there. And then you can put it up in there in notes that, hey, this is a food plot. And so they kind of know who they're dealing with. And then they'll say, yeah, exactly how much per acre, usually, of nitrogen, potash, and lime, and what to put down. And I did see, like, Wildlife Institutes, they do the same thing. It's just to their seed, though. So if you had a blend, like, I don't know if Whitetail Institute could give you recommendations for switchgrass or corn. I'm not sure. I could be totally wrong. But a private lab definitely will. Private labs are just a little bit more expensive, but they may be better.
So I mean, if you could just contact just about anybody, like you said, it's all about who you trust and use, and what works best for you, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've been using or trying to promote a lot of organic fertilizer from Morgan's there in Sears, Michigan. They custom blend organic fertilizer, so they can mix in lime with it, and chicken manure and dairy manure and calcium and boron and all the other nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients, and they mix it up, and it's a custom blend. Now they have their own private lab that they use. Not to say I give them mine from Michigan State, and they'll mix me up a blend. But I've been going that route just simply because if I can get in, logistics are a problem with it a little bit because it's hard to haul, can't be raining. So it's hard to work with, but the price is not much more, and the biology you put into the soil is something that the conventional fertilizer can't get you. The bag stuff. Bag stuff is pretty much taken up by the plant, leaves really nothing for the soil. We leave stuff for the soil by killing under green stuff, or green manure, that some people like to call it. But with that organic fertilizer, it really brings the soil to life, and it's amazing stuff. But it's just, again, hard to work with.
Well, I think we're coming up on time here, Case. I want to thank you for coming on. If anybody wanted to reach out to you for property management or anything like that, or even just see what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yep, I've got a website. So I like to guide everybody to my website first, www.completedeer.tv or .com. So completedeer.tv. On there, I have a bunch of videos, YouTube videos. I have a little bit of a blog on there. I have a services page, so you can kind of run down the services that I provide. I have a lot of the equipment that I use on there. An About Me page, kind of my background, a little bit more about my background. And then I have my Facebook page, which there's a link there to go to. And like that, follow that. I post a lot there. I think there's an Instagram link too. I post some stuff there, but usually other things are all linked together. So I'm trying to produce the YouTube videos on what I'm working on that day or that week, let's say, and hopefully some free information out there to help somebody with what they got going on their property. And so just before you get too far, I am giving away a Browning trail camera. So that I got that going on for a while here. So go subscribe to the YouTube page. It's free. Go on my website, send me an email and say, hey, I want to win that Browning trail camera. And when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm gaining, but we'll get there someday. I'm going to give that trail camera to somebody.
Awesome. So yeah, everybody go to Kasey's YouTube page, subscribe, and then go send him an email and say you want that Browning trail cam. I can personally tell you Browning trail cams are some of my favorite cameras. I get mine through Kasey, and the battery life on them are phenomenal, second to none. I can go and put, Rayovac cheap batteries in there, and they last literally almost all year, just one set. And they got great trigger speeds. Their pictures look awesome. I love them to death. And they're, the ones I get are around $100 to $130 a piece. So, I like quantity as well, but with those cameras, I get quantity and quality. So I do run quite a bit of them, and I can vouch that they are awesome cameras. So if you guys could go do that, I'd appreciate it, and I know Kasey would. So again, Case, I appreciate you coming on. This won't be the last time. We'll get you on here and do some more updates. And again, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
All right, good deal. Have a good one.
And there you have it. Thank you very much to Kasey Thren for coming on and talking deer management. This is not going to be the last time we have Kasey on. He's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to deer habitat. He's been doing it a while, and he's had a lot of success doing it. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and don't forget, next Wednesday, an all-new episode of the Fall Podcast.